So I've flaked my alpine rope out. It's a 50-metre rope, but when we're in the mountains I like to talk more about arm spans, because it's really hard to get your head around what's 6 metres, what's 8 metres, what's 4 metres, whereas if I was to say, I'll give yourself 6 arm spans or 4 arm spans, it's a lot easier to do that. So it's really worth getting to know your rope and how many arm spans in length your rope is for you, because it will depend on the thickness of the rope, and also the overall length and the size of your arm span. So work out now how long your rope is in terms of the arm spans. Mine's 1, 2, so if we say about 30 arm spans my rope, I mean typically I know that this rope is about 30 arm spans. It's a 50-metre rope, it's 9.4 mil and it's 30 arm spans. So what I need to do now is to make flaking the rope out for glacial travel really efficiently, I need to sort of set the rope out. And that person setting the rope out is really the first person that's organised. So other people might be putting on crampons and might be putting on harnesses, sorting something else, but that first person can set the rope out so it's ready then for people to sort of tie in. And so what we need to know is the distances between each person and how many coils you're going to take. And so for me, if you're just travelling on the glacier, early season, you want about 6 arm spans between each person. And so for me, that would mean me taking 8 arm spans in terms of coils, 6 arm spans between me and that middle person. I'd give that middle person maybe 2 arm spans so they can tie themselves on in the middle. Another 6 arm spans to the back person, and then that back person can take on the rest of the rope, which will be about 8 arm spans. So I need to sort of set the rope out so that happens really efficiently and quickly. It could be really early in the morning, it's cold, people want to get moving, so let's get the rope set out. So all I do is with the end of the rope, let's do 8 arm spans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 arm spans. That's what I'm going to have as coils as the first person. And now I'm just going to tie a little marker in the rope, just a little overhand knot, and that's a marker, and that's my 8 arm spans. And now I'm going to do 6 arm spans, which is that distance between myself possibly and the middle person. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's just do a marker there, because that's indicating now that length between the first person and the middle person. And then what I do is give the middle person maybe 2 arm spans to tie themselves in. So let's just do another little marker there. So you've got 2 sort of markers, and we've got a bite of rope there that you can see that middle person can now tie on with. And so let's work our way to the back of the rope. So from this sort of middle marker, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's just do another little overhand knot. So it should be that we've got the ends, we've got 8 arm spans from either end that people can take as coils, we've got 6 arm spans to the middle, and that middle person then has got like a couple of arm spans to sort of tie on. Now when I say 6 arm spans, like I say, that's maybe early season, the snow bridges are well bonded still, but maybe later in the season when the snow gets stripped back, the glaciers are a lot bigger, the crevasses are a lot bigger, or maybe that you've had some recent snow and it's covering up those big holes, it's likely that somebody's going to go down in a slot. Give yourself maybe 10 arm spans or 8 arm spans, put more rope out between each person so you're more able then to hold somebody if they were going to go down in a hole. And then you've got these coils, the rope that you're not using, the rope that's left over, that's what you can use then to set up some sort of pulley system to rig to help somebody get out of that crevasse in like a crevasse rescue situation. So I'm going to show you how to sort of tie into this sort of middle point of the rope first, for that sort of middle person. It's a little bit different than what we do when we tie onto the ends of the rope, where we use figure of 8. Typically for that middle person we'll use a simple overhand knot. You know, it's because we're using doubled ropes. The knot tends to be less bulky and it's a lot easier and smoother to tie. So let's take that bight of rope. Here's our two sort of marker knots. Here's the bight of rope. And now what we want to do is make two overhand knots into this bight here. So that's one overhand knot there. And then we can make another overhand knot close to it, which is going to be there. So we've got two overhand knots and this is the end of that bight of rope. So what we need to do now is tie into this first knot here by threading this bight up through your leg loops, through your waistband, and let's re-thread this back through that first overhand knot. So thread it back on itself, so we're sort of doubling up on ourselves, pull a knot nice and tightly, thread it through, and to get that knot nice and tight, let's pull all four of those strands individually. So let's pull that one, this one, that one, and that really sort of cinches up that knot nice and securely. So you've got a really sort of small overhand knot there with the sort of double ropes in it. You've got the sort of rope tied into your leg loops and waistbands. You've got a small loop here, and with a screw gate carabiner, for that sort of added security if you like, you can just clip that loop there into that loop that you made into your harness, into the knot you created. Do the screw gate carabiner up, and that's you tied onto that bight of rope. Just to neaten things up, if we take away the sort of marker knots that we put in initially to give us our distances, we should then have the rope go into one end and the rope going to the other end, and then me tied on in the middle there. Now the reason I've got two overhand knots there as a marker is that I can now adjust this second overhand knot so that it's either close to me or far away, depending on the terrain that I'm on. So if I'm on glacial travel, I'm on glaciated terrain, I can just slide that knot up to my first knot so it's out of the way. So firstly, it means that I'm not going to trip up on that rope or stand in it or any of those loops with my crampons on. And secondly, it means if somebody in front of me or behind me goes into a crevasse, that weight comes immediately onto me. There's sort of no lag. But if I'm on sort of more broken ground, rocky ridge style terrain, I might want a little bit of flexibility as I'm moving around, sort of stepping up and down blocks. So what I can do is very simply just slide the overhand knot down the rope a little bit, and that just gives me a little tail then that I can just move around that bit more freely. But you can see there that for glacial travel it's dead easy to stand in the loop, or if I'm here and somebody does go down a crevasse maybe in front of me, you can see there's going to be a bit of a lag there, and I'm going to have a little bit more shock come onto me rather than their weight come onto me immediately. So for broken ground, just extend that overhand knot to give you a tail, to give you a bit of flexibility, and on glaciated terrain just put that knot up really nice and tight to you so that the weight immediately comes onto you if somebody goes down the hole, or you're not going to trip up in any sort of slack loops. So I'm going to show you how I take coils for that end person, but before I do that I just need to tie myself onto the end of the rope, and the way I do that is by using a figure of 8. So just tie a single figure of 8, and with that tail now thread that through your leg loops, up through your waist, pull a knot up so it's cinched up towards your harness, and then with the tail just follow the knot back on itself to create a double figure of 8 there. Threading it through, making sure that it's nicely dressed, and then there's enough tail then to put it nice and tight, and also just to do a single fisherman's, which is a couple of wraps around the rope and then threading it back on itself just as a sort of backup knot there as well, like a stopper knot. So I've got a really sort of small loop there that I've created. It's nicely dressed and the knot's nice and tight. So now what I need to do is put the rope on as coils. I've got those 8 arm spans to take up. But before I do that, I get my rucksack on, because those coils need to go on the outside of all those rucksack straps so it's easily accessible if I am in like a crevasse rescue scenario. And also put your hood up, just makes it a bit more comfortable when I'm taking coils. Put that first coil over your head, over your left shoulder, and to take this sort of loop out here so there's no slack in the system, just turn your knot upwards and then pull the slack out with the other hand. So the rope's nicely snug over your left shoulder with the knot facing upwards, and then with that left palm facing down around knot height. You don't want it too high, because as you're taking these coils, you know, the loops will be too tight, it'll be too uncomfortable and too restrictive when you're out walking or climbing. So, you know, make sure the coils are around sort of knot height, and wrap the rope round underneath the palm of that left hand and make your coils, keeping that rope nice and snug as you do that. Keep taking it round, keep working it round, and work round until you get to almost that marker knot. Take your hood down because you don't need it up anymore. These are your coils. Now you might find that there's a little bit of slack that comes into the system here. So just grab all your coils with your hands and just spin the coils round just so they're nice and snug. So the rope goes over your left shoulder. It's your left palm facing down when you're making the coils. Now it's that right hand that goes through and puts it over your shoulder so it's nice and comfortable. And now what we need to do is tie these coils off. So to do that, let's just get rid of that marker knot. Let's put our left hand behind all the strands, because what we want to do is take a bite of rope and pass that bite of rope behind everything. And the easiest way to do that is take that left hand, pass it down the back of everything, grab the bite, the loop of rope, and pull it back on itself. What we now need to do is tie these coils off. So with this loop, keeping it nice and short, just wrap it around the rope that goes in front of you, around the back, and then down through on itself, just to create a nice simple overhand knot. Make sure that loop's nice and small, because what you do now is with a screw gate carabiner, clip that into your figure of 8 loop and into the other loop, and that links it all together. Now I'm not going to do my carabiner up yet because I haven't kind of finished. What I've done is I've tied my coils off so they're comfortable, they're out of the way, they're not too short or too long, and they're easily accessible because I put them on over the top of that rucksack. But what I need to do now is, you know, reduce the height of where this kind of central point is, because at the moment it's too high. So if somebody did go down in a crevasse, because that point's so high, I'm going to get pulled over the top. And what I want to do if somebody goes down the crevasse, I want that pull to be lower my harness so their weight goes through my legs and into those crampons, so I can stop them going too far. I can then get down in the snow with my ice axe and make an anchor. So we need to lower that point of attachment there. And very simply, the way we do that is just take a bite of rope, a simple overhand knot, nice and short, and then clip that back to that same carabiner, do the carabiner up, and that's that sort of low point of attachment. Then if somebody does go down in a hole, you've lowered it so that it comes through your harness, down through your legs and into those sort of crampon points. Now there needs to be a little bit of slack here, because if not, and this knot is too short, then the pull is still high. You know, it's uncomfortable, and importantly, it's really difficult to hold somebody's fall into a crevasse because that point of attachment is too high. So it's really important that you have a little bit of slack rope here to make certain that that pull comes low onto that harness there. So that's me tied onto the end of the rope there. That's that 8 arm spans up to that marker knot, and then it's 6 arm spans to that middle person. They're tied on with a rethreaded overhand knot. And then we've got the sort of back marker with the rest of the rope. So hopefully that just gives you an idea of, you know, how to organise the rope efficiently, and then how to tie on at both the ends and also in the middle of the rope.